Well, welcome, Junfu and Adria. I hear an echo. I'm hearing myself down the hall, I think. I'll mute myself in a minute. So Junfu and Adria, thank you for joining us and hosting this workshop. If you'd like to take a minute to introduce yourself, that'd be amazing.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I am Adria Malcolm. I'm a photojournalist. I freelance here in New Mexico. I was at the Daily Lobo 2011 until like 2012. And I was a photographer and then a photo editor. And then I just started freelancing after that. So now I mostly work for national publications, newspapers and magazines. Junfu.
Hi, my name is Junfu. I was at the Daily Lobo from 2008 to 2012, worked pretty much every position besides being a reporter. I was a photographer, started as a photographer, and I did photos, I did videos, and I was a photo editor, I was a multimedia editor, and I was a web editor, which worked with state news at the time to build the Daily Lobo website and learn a little bit page design and by working with the designer at night. Also, I was 1 year I was Conception Southwest editor-in-chief. So did pretty much everything at the Lobo. I'm a staff photographer at the Detroit Free Press. If you don't know Midwest, we're the largest newspaper in Michigan. We cover pretty much everything in Michigan and Northern Ohio. So yeah.
So to start today, we're going to try to pack a lot of stuff into our hour. And so to start, we're going to touch on kind of how we build community within the newsroom and how reporters and photographers can work together. And so that's sort of this really big cornerstone of how we function, not just in the newsroom, but also within our reporting. And so, Junfu, do you want to start talking about that a little bit? What that means to have community in a newsroom?
Yeah. When we were at the Lobo, it was we're pretty much there every day between classes. Like after class, like this is a place. The newsroom was a place we eat lunch. We hang out with each other. We go over story ideas. We talk about what we covered. There was a couch. This past summer I was there, but I was very disappointed. The couch was gone. Maybe you guys can get a new couch. That was we take naps on the couch. We hang out on the couch. That was literally like the hangout place. We're always there, and you go out to lunch with your reporters, with your photographers, with the editors. You're always hanging out with each other. You know each other. You trust each other, and then we bounce each other ideas off each other. Brainstorm with each other. So it's like there's a lot of connection. We have a lot of us are still like really good friends, like to this day. It was like you build the newsroom, later on you build a network of friends, and a lot of us still in the same profession.
Yeah, so in ways you can do that if it's not happening organically, maybe there's after you guys are done on a Sunday, or maybe it's Friday or something, and your issue has came out for the week. Maybe you all go get food together, or start exchanging numbers, have maybe a running list of everyone's phone numbers and emails, and try to connect. Because that's going to be really important, not just as in the newsroom culture, but when you're working together on a story, you have to be able to really thoroughly communicate what the story is about and how you're going to work together. And so if you can build that rapport outside of the assignment first, and then bring it into the work you're going to do together, it makes it all the more better. Junfu, did you have anything else to touch on about that, or can we move on
That
to the next?
the launch thing, it still works in this day. Like I still go out with now I'm in a different newsroom. We still go out with reporters like, oh, we're so and so, we're working on the story, and then let's go to lunch. Let's maybe go to lunch in that neighborhood and or something. And then you just always there, you're always in your community, but you're also with the person you pair with sometimes on the story. Like you have time to talk about it, or you find something new on your way. It definitely helps, and those things you can carry on for a long time. And yeah, it helps to find stories on campus. You know, when you want to go out, like there's yeah, I forgot my thought.
I think that once you build those relationships, you're able to really, like Junfu said, you can brainstorm stories more. And it kind of becomes just second nature. It's just once you become in that frame of mind and you have almost, there's this thing that will happen in the newsroom where you have like a partner. You'll have someone who you kind of always can gravitate toward and who you know you can work on a good story with. Because none of this works within a vacuum, right? We're dependent upon each other to really work a story the way it needs to be worked. And so, Junfu, can I show some examples of that now? Is that okay? So we were thinking about how photographers and reporters team up. And so one of the first things that has to happen is that communication process. What stories are receiving a visual storytelling component and which aren't? And sort of what deserves it, what kind of you have to get like an ugly building mug of. We want to try to use as few of those as possible, or courtesy photos as few as possible, or even a photo illustration. We want to try to figure out what stories have visual storytelling components. Mark Holm, who was our mentor when we were there, always said this one thing: what about this is visual? And so it's everyone's job, the editors, the reporters, the photographers, to think of what is visual about this story. Where is the opportunity to engage with the people that this story affects? And you're also working against time, right? You're working against a deadline. So some things aren't always possible, and there will be a building mug or a photo illustration. But the communication that has to happen is thinking about what stories have that visual that can carry it and what don't, and how you work that within the design, within the reporting, and so forth. So something we had when Junfu and I were there, which I don't think you have anymore, but correct me if I'm wrong, was a culture open page. And it was sort of the story everybody wanted to work on because it was fun. It was a feature. And you got to kind of work with a reporter and dig into something really fun. It was usually pretty light. It wasn't too serious. And it was an opportunity to display feature writing and photo essay of some sort. Let me share my screen. Yes, I can do this. Okay. Hold on, it's barking at me. One moment. It's gonna make me leave. Junfu, can you do it? It's trying to make me leave to give my Mac permission to share its screen.
Oh, okay. Which page you want to look
Being
at?
weird. Those three links under those first three: Bulls and Blood, Restoring Machines, and Election Coverage.
Okay. Can you see now?
Yeah.
Okay. Right here.
Okay. Can you make it full screen?
Yep.
Cool. So this was really fun. My friend Nicole Perez, who oddly Junfu said you kind of build these long-lasting relationships. She's in town and I'm going to see her today. So our friendship has lasted a really long time. So this was a piece we worked on called Bulls and Blood. It was the Time Murray Invitational is a huge bull riding event that comes to Albuquerque. And we thought it would be a really fun story to work on. There was a gallery online that went along with this, but this was sort of the package in the paper. So how does this work between photographer and reporter? We came up with this idea. I think it might have been me. I was like, wouldn't it be cool if we, covered something on bull riding? Because it's a culture in and of itself and something we don't often see explored all the time. So we went and we worked side by side, whoever I photograph, Nicole might have interviewed, or she's observing, at a distance so that she can include some observational narrative in her writing. Another example, Junfu, it's going to be the typewriter store. Yeah, there it was. So there was this typewriter store. This gentleman would, John Lewis, he would fix old typewriters. And you went into the store and it was sort of just typewriters everywhere. And so it was really cool. We just wanted to do a feature on him. We were curious about him, curious about what he did. And that sort of led us to this. Again, this was her and I sort of bouncing ideas back and forth. She would maybe give me an idea, I'd give her an idea, and then we'd see what we could do, and then usually there was a bigger visual component online that would be a gallery that accompanied this. Because, it doesn't have a lot of play in print. There's only so much space. But if you notice, visuals are still getting a large play. And so page 8 there, you still have a very large sort of environmental portrait on the bottom. So the writing and the visual is sort of being given equal weight. So this doesn't always happen just only with feature stories. You can do it with hard news stories, like for an election. And so when we covered the election in 2012, you notice we have someone that was at the Republican Watch Party. That was Juan Labreche, that photo on the bottom. And then I was at the Democratic Watch Party. And so go ahead and open up the issue. We have a photo here in the upper right that was Martin Heinrich at the Democratic Watch Party event. And then if we turn again and again, here we have another photograph. This is when Grisham was a congressional candidate at the time. So anyways, you work together in those moments. Whoever you are photographing, perhaps the reporter interviews them. But there was always, in particular instances, especially in election, there was always an equal importance of both photo and written story. So that's just to give you some ideas of how it can function. How you navigate that between reporter and photographer. It's really just communicating and knowing what stories deserve sort of that large visual presence and which don't, or which don't really have the best visual opportunity. And we can get into that more and how you determine that, but not at this time. Junfu, do you have anything to say about that? All right. Junfu, do you want to tell us about finding the stories on campus?
Yeah. Well, I want to start with things what we used to do, and there's Devin mentioned that last week. Feature photos. I totally forgot about that. Well, we still do that these days as a daily newspaper. Right? Feature photos. Like we had a photo meeting last week. I think I mentioned the idea. Keep a camera as a photographer. Keep a camera in your bag. But even if you if you're a reporter, editor, you have a phone now. Like there's something you could tell you if you see something, you could tell a photographer, hey, that's something really interesting that's on campus that's going on. There's one, but you go to class every day. You're gonna be walking through different parts of the campus, and not everybody can be everywhere. So you have a communication that you know that something's going. You know the photo editor's number. You know the photo editor's email. Hey, I just saw something. Like maybe we could, like as a reporter or editor, you'd say, "Hi, I saw something. Maybe you could go send a photographer, go shoot something." And there's my old example. I think I just told Adria that was when I first started at the Lobo in 08 or 09. Can't remember exact date. There was an editor by the name of Pat Lohman. He was walking by the sub, the side that's facing Zimmerman Library. There was 3 giant banners that's going like vertically. It was some school like Christian organization that was having a meeting, a workshop at the sub, but it says it wrote down from the first banner says workshop, and the second banner says teaching, and the third banner says friendship. But if you look from a distance, it just says the first letter of each of the word that's the biggest. So you see the sub building, but you see WTF on top. And they made a very fun feature photo. It's like that's a really fun thing. It's like you see something and then you tell, hey, that's going on, that where everybody walk by. That's kind of funny. But being on campus, there's one time I remember was kind of seeing a lot of kids were just like, I'm sorry if I use the word kids. There's a lot of students, they're like just jumping off buildings, flipping through, doing the stairs. I can't find the exact stories, but like then I just approached them, was like, hey, what are you doing? Like you're just like jumping off, getting a really high, you just walk up building and flip. And they're like, we're doing this whatever this thing's called.
Parkour.
What's it called?
Parkour.
Oh, okay. Well, then I was like, well, maybe can I take a picture of you guys doing this? And I went back to the newsroom. Was like, I found this group of people. They're just doing different parts on campus, and can we like do a story? Yeah, we brought a reporter, and then we just went there, interviewed them, and followed them to different parts of campus. Yeah, of them doing like cool stunts around campus. That's yeah, but like when you're there, when you're on campus, when you're always walking around, looking around, and be curious. Take a note, ask people for a phone number. Hey, can I come back? Are you doing this more? Are you doing this, that? Or you could be seeing something completely different. Not everything is a culture or fun story. It could be a serious story. One thing I learned when I did an internship in New England in college, there's a business reporter that took me out to lunch, and he was like, try to take a different route every day when you go to work, or like go to lunch, take a different route. And his example was like, he will drive a different road to go to the newsroom every day. He will go to a different place for lunch. Even if he goes to the same place he's been to before, he would try to take a different road to get there. There's one time he went to a place for lunch, and he was sitting there at lunch. Across the street, there was a theater, like an old theater, abandoned, was being demolished. And he was like, oh, never heard that before. He's a business reporter. So he went to see the people who were demolishing. He was like, oh, which company you guys with? Why are you demolishing this place? And he got the note, and he called the company, he called the city, he wrote a story about them demolishing the old like theater, which was a staple in the town. And then the city planner called him after the story ran. He was like, wait, they're demolishing this place, we have no idea they're doing that. And then there's another story, somebody without permit demolishing a story, and by just going to a different place. And then the third story comes as city starts suing the owner of the place for illegal demolishing, and then there's a legal fight. Then you have 3 stories by just going to a different place for lunch. And I'm sure there's more later on, how the legal fight and who end up, doing what. And that's just an example. Being on campus, being out, boots on the ground, going out, you will find things. And be curious. Take it. You might not have notebooks, but like I use those notes on the phone, Google Keep, anything you can, but go out, approach people, ask questions, and whatever. If things feel strange, things feel interesting, just go ask.
So, Junfu, how would you describe how a feature photo functions?
Feature photo function. Feature photo is something that's sometimes when you have a dry news day, means a lot of things that don't really have pictures, that you might struggle to have a picture. Then you have something that's cool on campus. I was looking at the old issue. Let me see if I can pull that out.
So I guess how I would describe it is
We call
a feature
standalone.
photo, a standalone image that has some type of news value, or it could be a feature. It could be something happy. Like these guys used to dress for Star Wars, in Star Wars character stuff, and they had lightsabers, and they would get together over by the duck pond, right? So one time I saw them out there, slow news day. We did not have a center, above the fold image. So I photographed them. So sometimes it can be something like that, or it could be, I don't know, one time the bus hit somebody by campus. Not somebody, not a pedestrian, but someone in their car. There was a car accident. Someone went out, captured image of the scene, what was happening. It wasn't a full write-up story, but you have a standalone image that has some news value. And then there's your main cut line, right? Your AP style, who, what, where, when cut line. And then we call it an extended cut line. So there will be 2 to 3 sentences more that describe what is happening there. So that's what a feature photo is. You'll go on a lot of feature photo hunts. Go ahead.
And it draws the attention of, like, I think there's a term we could talk about. Hey, there's something you did that was kind of around the same time zone. Above the fold, like when a newspaper folds like this in half, the top part is above the fold. When you're looking at a newspaper in a box, the top part is above the fold. And that's something that draws you to pick out the paper. Hey, I want to know what's going on. A lot of times we're not, like, if we're walking by a newspaper box, or we're not reading the headlines. We see, hey, this is a very interesting picture. I want to know what happened. I'm going to look at the picture and read the caption. Oh, this is interesting. And what else is interesting in this newspaper? You're in one hand, you're selling the paper. You are increasing readership. You're drawing people's attention into reading, finding out what else is in there.
Mm-hmm. Junfu, can we, you're looking for something, right?
Just looking for feature photo example. I think I saw some.
There's one up there for a I think that's one there, actually.
That was the
festival of some sort.
Yeah. See, this story has nothing to do with it. This story has nothing to do. This story has nothing to do with it. But it's a flip. This is for like a cultural story in page 2. But UNM gets grant from fight. How do you say that word? Disease.
Renal disease.
And you don't have a photo for that. And student for vision, it's hard to find a photo for that. And the partner was for nanoscience. We don't have a photo for that. But yeah, this is an interesting story at what those students are doing on campus. Bring that to front. And that's something that draws in the attention. I want to read what's this about. If I'm like, I walk by campus, I saw something going, I had no idea what it's about, but now I see it on the paper. I want to go reading to, oh, page 2, I'm going to go read the story. Imagine if this is on top and we just have grant fight whatever disease, and president is looking for student for vision, and we're partnered with UT. Who's gonna read that? Something will draw your attention. And I mean, I know we're talking about old days that we're like, there's a lot to print. We're printing daily. I think right now we're printing once a week, right? But something on your website too, when you have just a little section of something. And
Junfu, when we're talking about how photographs can sell or entice people to pick up that paper, maybe we can look at how sports photos function that way.
what is it?
How sports photos function that way.
Sports photo. Yeah, I mean,
if you go to that link, I'm sorry that I'm not able to share. If you go to photo placement, those links I sent, there's one of like, oh, this one was really nice. Go back.
yeah.
That's yours.
Is it? Oh.
Yeah. So Junfu had this epic photo, and I gave you this link because I wanted to show. So we're teasing right on the front. Front stories are kind of boring. They're not very interesting. I mean, look, we have an AP story on the front. So we're teasing visually with this moment. We're not even focused on the action of the sport. We're focused on the reaction of the other teammates on the swim team. But we're teasing this for the back page story. Junfu, can you go to the back page? This is one of my favorite photos Junfu ever made of swimming. So this photo has huge play on the back page. It's large. I mean, visually, it's wonderful. It's incredible. But we tease that on the front. So we're enticing people on the front to go read this story on the back. And giving the photos really large play where we can, especially if they warrant, to be able to see the water drops spinning off of her ponytail while she's diving like that. The image needs big play, and it deserves big play. And so we were always working with the designers. In fact, sometimes we would go in there and our photos would be smaller, and we'd be like, no, we need it bigger. We need to have it a little bit bigger. So we were always communicating across all the desks. Even when our cut lines would go to the copy editor, if something was a little off, we would say, hey, let's work on this. So we were always bouncing between all the rooms, working on that communication and working on refining process and getting it exactly like we wanted. So asking for larger photo play was always something, but really trying to entice readers to pick up the paper with those larger photos leading. We would do that with sports. I was never good at action. I was better at others' reactions. And so this is one of my photos, but it's also leading. It's leading for another story on page 8. So this is just to think about how you can lead with those photographs and entice people to pick it up. Thinking intentionally about what your placement is and what's going to make people interested in picking up that issue. There were times when we had a lot of photo play. Junfu, there's one with Drew Gordon on the front. It's like literally the whole front page of the paper. Oh, this is a good one too. The soccer team was doing really well. And we led with it. I think, what year is this? 2011. I think Dylan was the photo editor then. Or was it you, Junfu?
Well,
I don't
you
know.
love it. Yeah, that was
Um,
me.
Yeah, so huge front play that would entice people to pick it up.
Like
I'm
they're
not the
doing well.
huge,
Like go
a
with
huge,
it. Be proud of it. And,
yeah, run with it.
yeah.
Not a huge fan of text on photos. We can debate that another time, but it was given large play, which is great. That's go back, Junfu. Dia de los Muertos. This here is a feature photo. There's
No, that was a
no.
video. That was a video of the parade, but
Oh, it's a video.
that was a video that we did a little we were doing videos at that time. That was a video. This was like a screen grab from a video. I think we have like a check
Okay.
multimedia coverage of like there's a little video story of the parade. And
Mhm. So a lot of times too, a feature photo would come from an event that perhaps a reporter wasn't assigned to, but maybe it's something that a photographer is really interested in.
Sorry, I
There's
don't want to
one.
interrupt you guys, but I think we have a question. Unless you
Sure.
want to wait. I don't know.
yeah, question.
Sure, you can ask now.
So with the feature photos, they can go anywhere in the paper, just not the front page.
No, they can absolutely go on the front page. Absolutely. They can go anywhere in the paper.
Okay.
But I mean, were you asking something?
That's what I was asking if that, because I've been seeing a lot of them just on the front page. I was wondering if they were only for the front page or if they can go anywhere in the paper.
They can go anywhere in the paper. But you want to think about, for instance, when Junfu was kind of saying, look at these other stories that don't really have, not that they're not important, they should be in the paper because they are important, but they may not have visual components. So if there's not a huge storytelling opportunity for a visual, if the visuals, just to be blunt, suck, if it's a building mug, we don't want a building mug. Let's put something else up there. Maybe there was a job fair going on campus. Maybe there's a skateboarding club doing something fun. Maybe there was an accident. Maybe it's practice. Maybe it's football practice photo. Something like that can kind of fill the space and give a photojournalism opportunity for storytelling. But if you can use it on the front, use it on the front. But you can place them anywhere. A lot of times we'd also put them in the second page. When you open, there'd always be a bunch of ads on that bottom part. Yeah.
I forgot the
Isn't the
session.
best. Oh yeah, that's what we used to do too.
Where
We
are
used to do
we?
these photos. Yeah, so someone would have to figure out where this is. So that was kind of fun. But if a feature photo can go anywhere, but thinking about what else is in the paper that week is important. And if there aren't visual opportunities with those other stories, or there are, but they're just not great, which is pretty frequent, lead with something else. You can assign feature photos. You can just say, hey, look at your budget for the issue. And if there are all stories that are kind of duds for visual storytelling, say, okay, well, this week within design, we're going to need to plan for a feature photo. So maybe 2 or 3 photographers go get feature photos. And sometimes they're not assigned. Like even when I would help the Albuquerque Journal for a while, you're on your own. Like, good luck, we need a feature photo, go find us something. It's sort of like a wild goose chase sometimes, and other times you're really lucky and it's easy to find something. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
It was,
Junfu, what were you
it's the same
finding?
idea we talked about that. I mean, I think when we were there, somebody mentioned it's about selling paper. It's about covering your community. See, this is another feature photo. It was, you look at the story. GPSC seeks to mitigate loss of loan subsidies. We can't find this photo. Like, this is very abstract ideas. City to award 30,000 in app making contest. Do we get a picture of illustrating a phone app or a stack of $30,000 money in the picture? Or do we find something that's like students are doing, having fun on campus? Like, that's what I feel like what we're learning was like selling the paper. You're selling the paper of like, I see this thing, I want to know what happened. And I'm gonna go read the rest. And the GPS thing is interesting. Is gonna, if I'm being a student, I pick up the paper because it's photo, then I'll read the story about, oh, this is like affecting us, this is affecting us. And you go in, there's a story, sports stories, but something will draw the attention. It's about selling the paper, your readership. Does that answer the question about? I think we had a lot. Look at that. I think that was this the accident that was on campus? Collision.
I think
Yeah.
that's something different.
Yeah, I mean, like when you have a budget, when you guys have budget meetings, the editors, when you talk about stories, go find, like, think about what could be visual. When you're writing a story, like I'm looking at this from when, February 6th, a month ago. If you're, for example, if you're talking about, hey, I'm gonna write a story about this place makes very interesting hot dogs. What am I not seeing here? A picture of the hot dog, right? Like, or somebody's making the hot dog. That will draw me in. Like, I'm seeing a picture of building, I walk by, I see it. What could be more visual component if you're writing a story about hot dog? A picture of the hot dog.
And to piggyback off of that, it's not that that photo isn't needed, because it is. But what other photos can we include that, one, lead the piece, right? So this is sort of when you go to your assignment, you're thinking of all the things you need. Yeah, I'd like to see an exterior for sure. And you're trying to work this long exposure that makes it more visually enticing and fun. But then what else can we see? Can we see, let's see inside the restaurant. What about someone eating a hot dog, or details of them making it? And we can do that, include images here in a gallery, perhaps, that's within the story, so that we can see sort of everything. We can see the hot dogs, we can see the people making them, we can see people excited to try this new place. So kind of trying to round out that visual narrative a little bit, and really getting to the heart of what it's about with your lead image. That's important. Junfu, can I, I'm going through our list of things here. Junfu, I'm going to piggyback off of this last point that we were going to make, posting within the website. So just how I said about that story about this new restaurant, you can include a gallery within there. Oftentimes something that happens and this is even in the most professional of atmospheres, visuals can be thought of last. And that is really a mistake. Oftentimes it's like a place filler, like we have to get a photo, so let's just get a photo. Photojournalism isn't about that. Photojournalism is about telling a story visually. It's not about pretty photos. It's not about, not that they can't be pretty. They need to be good photographs. But it's about showing emotion, showing the reader how to visually sort of navigate a topic, an issue, and you're their eyes into what the additional story is telling them. And so it's to add that extra layer that words aren't going to get us to, no matter how hard we try. So they have to work together. And so within the story, any story we go into, we don't want to think about we need a photo. If you need a photo, then that probably should be a feature photo. And thinking about intentionally which stories deserve that and which don't, but also treating each assignment both between, it's both on the reporter and the photographer and the editors to determine which stories can use more of a visual narrative, and then treating it as such, whether that's within the website design and the story layout online or in print. You all have a big advantage. We printed every 5 days a week. So every day was a complete crisis most of the time. Successful crises, but they were crises. And so we were kind of churning all the time, trying to figure out what we're doing. You all have an advantage that you print once a week. So that once a week is sort of this culmination of all the week's best work. And so there should be no reason, I'm being a little harsh perhaps, or frank, but there should be no reason why a story has to have a placeholder photo. We should be able to work and have something that really holds that space for visual storytelling in a proper way, and sort of lead with it, or whatever story. Perhaps there's a story that week that worked really well to have a visual component. It could be this new restaurant, and sort of really lean into that advantage, both in print and online, thinking about, we may just need a placeholder photo that goes above the story, but let's try to think a little bit better. Instead of placeholder, think with intention and think of, hey, we could maybe do a photo essay on this new restaurant, people eating there, people preparing the hot dogs, who are the cooks, who are the business owners, maybe a portrait of the owners. Kind of really bring us in full circle to that environment. Does that make sense to everyone? Does anyone have questions about that?
I just to add, like, there's one thing I see a lot. Stories, you go down, there's a block of text. Okay, so when you have, like, for example, like February, Black History Month, you're covering Black history. I know I'm going a little off topic. We're not talking just photos. When you are having a story like talking about Black History Month, there's a lot of celebrations, there's a lot of history, there's a lot of things that people are doing right now to improve diversity, equity, and inclusion. Like, you have a story here, African American Day at Legislature, celebrate the furthest progress in New Mexico. Then I'm seeing another story here of, where is it? Right here, Multicultural Greek Council offers, not this one, Black History Act seeks to support Black students. Maybe you can have a hyperlink in the story. Like, this is today. Maybe we can have a little link to see more of this. You can say, to see more of this, you have a little hyperlink. That links, if I'm reading this down, I see a link of a story that leads me to another story that's also done by you. Like, if I have to go to a different section to look through this, if I can have a little link to see more of this, give me a link to see this story. That link leads me to read another thing. That leads me to read another story about the student union. And stories like this, if we can have, like, building communities through outreach, education, and advocacy. When something like this, somebody has an idea to write a story, this is a supply photo of somebody supplied to you. When I'm reading down the story, they are offering student opportunity network to others' backgrounds and interests. Can we send a photographer to go find something? Go if you get an idea of a story, if the reporter gets in touch with the photo editor, let's call somebody in the story to set up, is there something you're doing today? Is there something you're doing tomorrow? We can send a photographer over there. I know you obviously have class, work out a schedule that works out. If there's something they're doing as a high school student, he was doing this. Where was this person? Was he doing something on campus or doing something with high school students as an outreach program? Like somebody at a visual component, not a group photo. And those are supply. And if you're out there, you might hear something else. You might learn something more about the organization. The more you learn of being embedded in the community, help leads to more stories. That's funny.
There was another, and you all would have to talk to Davin about this because it's always tricky when something's not in Albuquerque or not on campus. And I know it can be really tricky financially and car wise and all that. But if there was this opportunity at the legislature to go up there, I'd love to see that. What did that look like? That's a really great opportunity. And so it's really difficult when you're first starting to try to get your footing in determining what stories have visual components and which don't. And I think it centers around human interest. It centers around working with people and thinking, how do I tell this story visually? Where is that opportunity? We want to see people interacting. We want to see what these student groups are doing for Black History Month. How is it celebrated? Are there events we can attend? Is there preparation for them? Let's be there. Let's showcase this. And maybe that accompanies a story. Maybe it's a photo essay. Let's talk about photo essays real quick, Junfu. We don't have much time. So a photo essay.
We're gonna have more opportunity. There's other events or months, Pride or API months. All those will be coming up. If you're looking to do stories of that community, be a part of that community to tell the story. Like be there as an event. Not writing a story about it and then getting a handout photo. Call the organizer, say, hey, can we be there? Can we take photos over there? And can we send a reporter just to interview students or faculty who are a part of this? And then while you're there, you learn more of what's going on. And then somebody might tell you, because when you're interviewing somebody on the phone and you're getting a group photo, you're only getting what you want to get for the story. But while you're there, somebody might hand you a card and say, we're going to have future things. We're going to have further things. And then here's our card. Give us your email, social. We're gonna send you more things. Oh, by the way, we're doing something tonight. Would you like to come? That leads to more stories.
Yeah, capitalize on all those opportunities when you're out and about to meet people, because once you're out there and you start thinking, oh, this could be cool, and oh, this person might know that person, and let me think about how I can, this other way I can get to this story. All those connections always start to make sense. They may not make sense in the moment, but they'll make sense eventually. So photo essays. A photo essay, we had a photo issue every semester. Junfu, can we look at some of those real quick? I know you all aren't going to be doing a photo issue this year, and this really is geared more towards photojournalists than the reporters. But a photo essay is really a very good opportunity to learn how to tell a story visually, and rely only on those visuals to really delve in and show the issue you're working on, or whatever it might be that interests you. We had all kinds of things. We had skaters, so they would do like a story on a skate community. Junfu, if you go
It's a little
Maybe.
slow, my internet right now.
It's okay. I highlighted a couple
Oh,
in the
photo issues.
email I sent too for photo issues. So everyone, all the staff photographers would work on a long-term story. This is what I love the most. I love immersive work. I love working intimately with people, spending a lot of time, or sometimes you're not even picking up your camera half the time, but you're really immersing in someone's life. But it can be also a little bit more peripheral. But we had all kinds of things. I did a story on a centenarian, someone who had just turned 100 years old. There were stories on skateboarding. There were stories on dance. There was a photographer we had who was in the arts department, and she was a dancer. So she did stories on, I believe it was ballet. She ended up doing some stories on. But it's an opportunity to be able to sink your teeth into a story and learn how to tell that over time. Learn 90% of what a photojournalist does when you're really telling those hard stories, right? It's not sports. It's not going to the latest meeting for such and such or whatever it might be. It's the stuff that's intimate. It's the stuff that really takes you in. To learn how to do that takes some practice, and the photo essay is a good opportunity to do that. It's driven entirely by you. You're making the connections. You're doing the reporting. And remember, like I said, I mentioned this a couple weekends ago. Photojournalists shouldn't be just treated as you're going out to take a picture. You don't need to know anything. A photojournalist is a reporter with a camera. You should still have a notebook. You should still be writing down quotes. You should still be getting names. You should be getting numbers. You should be asking questions. You have to know just as much about that story as the reporter, because if you do not, you're not going to walk away with the right photograph that helps tell that story, that's pertinent to whatever that story hinges upon. So you have to be equally as engaged in the reporting, and a photo essay is your opportunity to really learn how to do that, because you're able to, it's only you, and there's no one else you can rely on to do that reporting. It's only you. And so a photo essay, when we present it in the photo issue, it was always kind of pared down and not, if I'm honest, nothing ever got the amount of play it probably deserved, because the paper is only so big, photos can only be so large, you have ads, things like that. But online, you could have another opportunity to really show what that looks like. So what the hell is a photo essay? What am I talking about? A photo essay, think about a movie. Think about your favorite movie. And if you could only capture stills of that movie to show what it was like, what scenes would they be? They're pivotal moments, scenes, details. We have we set the we have a scene setter of some sort. That last image that Junfu showed, go back. Scene setter, right? This is wide. I don't even know what this story is about. Winds of change. El Valle del Sur ha cambiado. Who did that?
One.
And so we have this scene setter image that sort of helps us set a placement. You have that. You'll have portraits, details. It's something that it's emotive. It makes people feel something. It pulls people into this environment that the photographer was in, and helps us really understand what that is like. Only you'll have copy, but it's going to be pretty minimal. And so I would love to see, maybe we work on a photo essay. Maybe it's once a month, someone on staff is working on a photo essay. I'd love for everyone to pick up a photo essay, something you're interested in. Lead with your curiosity. Curiosity can be light and happy. Curiosity could be really calling attention to something that perhaps needs to be highlighted. And it could be serious and depressing and all the things, whatever you're interested in, it could be. But I'd love to see that. I know Junfu would as well. But thinking of how photojournalists can have a bigger role within the paper and give photojournalism the chance to sort of lead in certain moments. So maybe that's once a month, there's a photo essay on something. It could be, maybe someone loves sports. Maybe there's a player that we're really curious about. What is that player's life like? What is the coach's life like? Again, not things that are sort of on the periphery. It's something that really brings us into something. Does that make sense?
But it's a feature story. It's being told in visual by a narrative or a sequence of pictures.
Yes. And the photo editing within that is also really, really pivotal, right? You want to kind of push and pull in an edit. You don't want to have every photo is the same sort of focal length and same distance from subject, and they all sort of look the same. But you want to be pushing and pulling, bring me in tighter, push me back. It's like a piece of music that you have to really learn how to put it together. So that's a separate challenge all in itself. But first comes the shooting, and making the images and making the connections and taking that initiative to learn to tell a story. And it'll be really challenging at first. It will be, but you'll get it. It's good. It's really good practice, because you go on assignment and you get your photo. It's going to be one photo in the paper and you're like, oh, I killed it. That was great. And then that's it.
We are required to do photo stories. Everybody, like, we rotate in the schedule. So like last week, 2 weeks ago, I went to one place in on the west side of Michigan that they have a luge track. If you don't know what luge is, you slide down from like 700 feet or whatever, and then you spend a day, you talk about a class, and you write like 300 words of whatever, and you go explore things. There's 1 year, well, we have a staff went up there and went up to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. There's a story about dog sledding and the story behind this group of people who does the dog sledding. So, but look around town, look around things, and think about what's affecting you, what's interests you, and everybody has a. Oh, that's a new staff member. Detail.
Does this make sense? Does this make sense to everyone who has questions?
It does make sense.
Okay. I kind of start rambling sometimes. I don't know if I'm connecting the dots or if it's just making sense in my own head. So I'm glad to hear that. It is 1 o'clock, Junfu. So shall we take some questions? You can keep showing us. I'd love to see, Junfu, if you want to just present some examples of other photo essays you've done, or pull up anything
Where this
I've done or other people.
Oh, we can just. I mean, I can send out a link of a collective like issue stuff, links of all the issues that we have done.
Yeah, I think it'd be great for them to see too, like, other of our colleagues that have done really nice photo essays. Maybe we could share something with them that It's not our work, but it's other people's work that, I don't know, we really like or something, just to share with them. So who has questions? Anybody? Okay, I guess there's no questions then. Something I
we-
wanted to say. Oh, go ahead.
Just in terms of like doing photo essays, is that something that we can just throw as pitches? If that's something we wanted to do?
Yeah, so ideally you would pitch something, right, to your editor. I think I can maybe speak for Junfu and I. We're happy to be a sounding board to help you kind of refine a pitch, and refine a story, kind of ask questions to see, if it could be solid. I think we're happy to do that, but ideally you would pitch it, and see, what is the story? Is it firm? It can be really hard at first. I was pretty terrible at learning how to distill a story on my own. And so I always needed a little guidance. So we're happy to be that sounding board, or if, it's however you all want to operate within the newsroom. But we're happy to review a pitch and kind of think of how to best go about telling that story. Yeah, absolutely. Something Junfu and I also wanted to kind of just mention was that, and I speak for myself with this, and I'm continually self-deprecating, so that could be part of the problem, but I'm never good enough. I'm always trying to be better, trying to learn how I can do something better, and constantly critiquing myself. This week I had a 3-day assignment that was immersive work. I was working really intimately with a couple who they were going through an abortion process, and I shadowed them for 3 days. I'll look at my edit and I'll probably be displeased with what I walked away with, and in some regards I'll be happy, but always kind of thinking, how can I be better? And kind of a lot of humility, because I'm always refining my craft. I know Junfu is too. And so we're never perfect. We want to work towards always being better. And I think in a way it is an art. And so there's always room for critique and asking ourselves, how could I have done this better? Or how can we do this better together? What do we need to change? What are things I need to work on? And looking towards, this is for reporters and photographers, looking at other pieces, whatever your beat is. Maybe I don't even know what your desks are now, but if you have a culture desk still or news desk, looking at other pieces that other papers have done and saying, okay, how do we do something like this? Or how can we become better? How are the visuals working within this? How are they not? And so just always trying to be better, and never thinking you're sort of the bee's knees, because you will fall face flat very quickly if you think you're really you can't improve. We can always improve, and humility is really important. And once you start working together, you're going to make, we're always making mistakes and can learn from those. One of the first New York Times assignments I had, I actually spelled someone's name wrong. I asked them to spell it and I still didn't get it right. And that killed me for like a month. I was pissed at myself, because it was a A1 photo below the fold, and this woman's name was spelled wrong. And that is a huge no-no. That's the largest paper in the United States. And I, to be frank, fucked up. So you're always going to make mistakes. You're always going to have to learn how you can be better. And that comes with both the reporting and how you're seeing. Your eye is going to develop. I see much differently now than I used to 10 years ago. And the stories I'm interested in now, there's some similarity, but it always changes, you know? And so be humble, always be curious how you can be better. We're a student of life and that which we choose to participate in at all times. But just that humility and curiosity, and I think curiosity is what leads us in the newsroom. That's what I think. But anyways, I'll leave you with that. Junfu.
It's hard to top that. You sure you don't need old people glasses? You see differently now from 10 years ago, not just getting old?
That's part of the problem. My eyes are
Okay.
pretty terrible, but yeah.
Um,
No, you know what I mean. You probably see differently, right? Than you used to. Your eye changes.
okay. Anyway, any questions, any thoughts, any comments, complaints? I'll take complaints too. Somebody swing
Well,
legs.
I have a comment, and I think it's just really thinking about the storytelling process as a much more dynamic process than we sometimes give it credit. It's not a linear progression of an idea from an editor to a reporter, assign a photographer. It's a much more dynamic back and forth process, and I think that's really exciting.
It definitely is. I love the way you put that it's a dynamic process. It certainly is. And there's multiple levels of that. Depends on what the story is. And so it's always changing how dynamic it is, but it is a process that's important.
I don't want to cut anyone off, but we do have quite a lot of stuff to get to today. So if no one else has any other questions, I think this will be probably a fine place to wrap up. Thank you, the both of you, very, very much. I think this is phenomenally, astoundingly helpful. There's a lot to parse through. I think there's going to be a lot to kind of mull over for all of us. So.
Awesome. Thanks for having us. If you all have questions, you can email us, text us, call us. Please share our contact with everybody. Reporters, designers, copy editors, photojournalists, whoever. You can reach out and ask us anything. We're happy to help. All right, y'all. Take care.